All right, good morning. Morning, welcome. Our guests, welcome. Students, obviously eyes front, attention forward, and one of our best assemblies that we have all year we look forward to, so we'd like your attentiveness today. With that being said, my name is Scott Rohr. I'm the principal here at Ole Valley Middle School. It is indeed my pleasure to participate in an event that not only exemplifies the district motto of enter to learn, leave to serve, but to be in the company of such a group of people who have given up significant time in their lives, mostly during their early years, 18 to 25, to serve their country and help ensure each one of us has the same liberties many take for granted today. The right of freedom of speech, the right to assemble and protest, simply the rights of life, liberty, and happiness. As an American, you get up and go to work, school, or other activity. For the most part, you can schedule your life. You can decide to sleep in or go out during the weekend. The men and women here today, during the time they served at the discretion of their country. There were no guaranteed sick days, vacation days, or weekends per se, because at any time, whether in wartime or peace, they could be called upon to drill, practice, or pack up and go to a foreign land. They could be freezing in the middle of the Bavarian forest in January, sweating in the desert, or working 24/7 because they were directed to do so. Simply, the heroes, men and women here today did what they were asked to do and did it without hesitation. Some volunteered, some were drafted. Both fulfilled a promise to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So much should be said to you, so much should be done for you, but know that we thank you. At this time, I'm going to introduce our first for our Pledge of Allegiance, to start our Pledge of Allegiance, Lily Scrobel and Pearson Moore. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for the Star Spangled Banner by Mrs. Pennington String Ensemble.
At this time, I'd like to introduce our 7th and 8th grade chorus to sing American Song. Now I'd like to introduce our 6th grade band with Freedom Finale.
Good morning. I'm Ann Greeny. I teach 8th grade social studies here at the middle school, and I am very happy to welcome all of you here today to our school. Happy Veterans Day. I am honored that we are here together this morning celebrating your service to our country. Today we are joined by 63 brave men and women who have put themselves in harm's way in places like Italy, Germany, Iraq, Japan, Vietnam, Korea, Afghanistan, Alaska, Crete, and more. We welcome you to Ole Valley Middle School today and always. I am so proud to be part of a school district that encourages our faculty and staff and students to take time away from our regular activities to recognize the importance of celebrating Veterans Day. Some schools are not in session today, and some schools who are may only briefly mention Veterans Day quickly in a social studies class. I hope that our students carry this tradition forward as they move through middle school, high school, and beyond. I do have to recognize those who put a lot of time into making this morning come together behind the scenes. Thank you first to the talented students in the 6th grade band, the 7th and 8th grade chorus, and the beautiful string ensemble who started our assembly with wonderful music, and Mrs. Pallas, Mrs. Rothenberger, and Mrs. Pennington for leading them. If we could acknowledge them. Huge thanks to Mr. Joey Wenzel and Mrs. Joanna Henderson on our custodial staff for setting up the cafeteria for the breakfast and the lobby display. I am so personally grateful to these two individuals for their hard work and their friendship and just being helpful all of the time. And many thanks to Mr. Daniels for taking on student council this year and for helping so generously with our technology needs for today. We appreciate you. And now I will read an excerpt from the 2024 presidential proclamation written by President Joe Biden. Today we honor generations of America's veterans, patriots who have stood on the front lines of freedom and kept the light of liberty shining bright around the world. Just as they have kept the ultimate faith in our nation, we must keep the ultimate faith in them. Each one of our nation's veterans is a link in a chain of honor that stretches back to our founding days, bound by a sacred oath to support and defend the United States of America. Throughout history, whenever and wherever the forces of darkness have sought to extinguish the flame of freedom, America's veterans have been fighting to keep it burning bright. We owe them a debt of gratitude we can never fully repay, not just for fighting for our democracy, but for giving back to our communities and inspiring the next generation to serve, even after they hang up their uniforms. As a nation, we have one truly sacred obligation: to prepare and equip those we send into harm's way and to care for them and their families when they return home. While our veterans are the steel spine of this nation, their families are the courageous heart. They also serve and sacrifice so much for our country. Earlier this year, I had the opportunity to visit Normandy to mark the 80th anniversary of D-Day alongside so many World War II veterans. Their service and sacrifice helped free the world from tyranny. We learned then what we still know now: democracy is never guaranteed. Every generation must preserve it, defend it, and fight for it. Today, we honor all of our veterans who have persevered, defended, and fought for our democracy. They prove that we are a nation that can meet darkness with light again and again, and no matter how high the cost or how heavy the burden. May we all strive to be worthy of their sacrifices for us, doing our part to keep the light of liberty burning bright for generations to come. In respect and recognition of the contributions our veterans and their families, caregivers, and survivors have made to the cause of peace and freedom around the world, the Congress has provided that November 11th of each year shall be set aside as a legal public holiday to honor our nation's veterans. Now, therefore, I, Joseph R. Biden, Jr., President of the United States of America, do hereby proclaim November 11th, 2024 as Veterans Day. I encourage all Americans to recognize the valor, courage, and sacrifice of these patriots through appropriate ceremonies and private prayers, and by observing 2 minutes of silence today for our nation's veterans. I also call upon federal, state, and local officials to display the flag of the United States of America and to participate in patriotic activities in their communities. Sincerely, Joseph R. Biden, Jr. Thank you. Up next, we have a patriotic video from Dr. Rohr.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I say your name. Do solemnly swear. Support and defend. The Constitution of the United States. Against all enemies. Foreign and domestic. And will bear true faith. And allegiance to the same. That I will obey. The orders of. The President of the United States. And the orders of. Those officers appointed over me, according to regulations and uniform code of military justice. So help me God.
We celebrate Veterans Day and the anniversary of the armistice that ended World War I. The armistice began on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. The timing of this holiday is quite deliberate in terms of historical fact. But somehow it always seems quite fitting to me that this day comes deep in autumn, and the colors are used and the days seem to invite contemplation. It is, in a way, an odd thing to honor those who died in defense of our country, in defense of us, in wars far away. The imagination plays a trick. We see these soldiers in our mind as old and wise, but most of them were boys when they died, and they gave up two lives, the one they were living and the one they would have lived. When they died, they gave up their chance to be husbands and fathers and grandfathers. They gave up their chance to be revered old men. They gave up everything for our country, for us. And all we can do is remember. I will not fail thee nor forsake thee. In memory of those who gave the last full measure of devotion, may our efforts to achieve lasting peace gain strength. Let us make a vow to our dead. Let us show them by our actions that we understand what they died for.
So we're here today for the right reasons. And you don't see me get choked up too often. And today I am. Because I'm going to introduce somebody who I respect, who has been through, I'm going to say it, hell and back. This is a lady, small in stature, but big in heart. She lost her son in Iraq. And after losing her son, she could have just moved on with her life and mourned as she does every day, as any parent would miss the loss of their son. But she started scholarship drives, a bike drive, and other things during the year, and raised thousands of dollars for students and scholarships for those that are going to serve our country, to pay for their basic necessities when they are shipped out and going to basic training. As I said, this is a great human being. She's a Gold Star mom. Her son, Corporal Brandon Hardy, made the ultimate sacrifice on April 28, 2006 in Iraq. He was 25 years old. Again, I respect Jill. I've known her for many years. I thank her for so much that she's done. And it's my pleasure to introduce Jill Hardy as our guest speaker today. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm going to say a couple things that Dr. Rohrer has already said and you've already seen in the video, because I think it's important enough to bear repeating. Those two handsome young men up there are my sons, by the way. I'm very proud of them for what they have done for our country. I'm here to talk to you today about veterans. All veterans at the time they were enlisted in their branch of military raised their right hand, as you saw in the Thank you. As you saw in the video, they give their name, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me, according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God. That is the oath they swore to serve our country and protect our freedom. Veterans Day is a United States legal holiday dedicated to honoring military personnel who have served in the U.S. Armed Forces. In 1918, on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, an armistice, or temporary cessation, of hostilities was declared between Allied nations and Germany in World War I, then known as the Great War. It was commemorated in many countries as Armistice Day until November 11th became a federal holiday in 1938. In the aftermath of World War II and the Korean War, Armistice Day became known as Veterans Day. According to the dictionary, honor is respect that is given to someone who is admired. Today, we are honoring those that have served our country in order to protect our freedom. My admiration for what they have done is immeasurable. In order to preserve our freedom, our military men and women and their families have had to endure sacrifice. The ultimate sacrifice, as you saw in the video, is the almost 1.2 million men and women who have lost their lives during a time of war. Our oldest son was one of them. Brandon is on your right. Our military men and women have had to, and their families, have had to sacrifice to pay the cost of freedom every day. They work long hours, can't call in sick with a headache, are separated from their families for months at a time, miss special days and holidays, and have seen more suffering and death than we can imagine. The current starting salary for military personnel is $2,017.20 a month. That hourly figure is somewhere around $12.61 based on a 40-hour week. With that salary, they are expected to purchase all required but non-issued items mandated by their commanding officers and be available 24/7. They respect their flag and they feel every note of the national anthem with a passion civilians can't understand. They are sometimes subject to protesters who hold signs that say, "Thank God for dead soldiers." In the past, in Berkeley, Milwaukee, Washington, D.C., and other countries across America, there were people who attacked our armed forces recruiting stations, claiming our military personnel are uninvited and unwelcome intruders. Ironically, our military personnel put their lives on the line daily to preserve our freedom to work where we want, worship where we want, shop where we want, live where we want, and hold those signs and carry out protests when and where we want, even if it's against them. Our oldest son, Brandon, was killed on April 28, 2006 in Al Anbar, Iraq. He served 5 years in the Air Force before he joined the Marine Corps. When Brandon was home on leave from boot camp, he called me over to where he was sitting at the table looking at his Marine Corps manuals. He said, "This is me, Mom. This is what I feel." These manuals were returned to us with Brandon's possessions after his death, and this is what he wanted me to read. Article of Code of Conduct, Article 1. He has it highlighted, by the way. I'm an American fighting in the armed forces which guard my country and our way of life. I am prepared to give my life in their defense. Little did I know, in just 10 short months, he would do just that. That is the heart of a veteran, to be willing to sacrifice their very life to defend the freedom we have in America. Our youngest son, Chad, followed in his brother's footsteps a little over 2 years after Brandon's death. When he raised his right hand and repeated that same oath his brother had taken to become a United States Marine, he had the heart of a veteran. He knew firsthand what could happen, but still, he wanted to serve his country and protect our freedom regardless of the price he may have to pay. I am privileged to have witnessed the strength, courage, fortitude, resilience, and compassion our veterans demonstrate every day. When Brandon's unit returned from their deployment in October of 2006, we traveled to Camp Pendleton in California to welcome them home. After many long hours of traveling from Iraq, they arrived at base at 11:30 p.m. After they greeted their families, they stood in line to greet us with a hug and cry with us over the loss of their friend and brother. At the memorial service held a few days after they returned to California, we saw compassion that few will ever witness. Hundreds of Marines in their desert camo paid tribute to 3 fallen heroes that day. They wept shamelessly as bios were read, personal tributes were paid, and the final roll call was taken and unanswered. They then lined up for 2 hours to kneel at the field cross, hold the helmet, touch the boots, or kiss the dog tag of their fallen brothers. They truly understand the cost of freedom. Over the past 18 and a half years, I have had the honor of speaking at military gatherings and have countless veterans who never cease to amaze me with their compassion and their kindness to us. These are men who have endured the harshness of war in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, and the Iraq and Afghanistan War on Terror. On more than one occasion, I have had a veteran come up to me with tears in his eyes and tell me he feels guilty. I know what his answers will be, but I always ask, and the answer is always, I came home and your son didn't. On Saturday, I had the privilege to fly with 6 Vietnam veterans in a UH-1 series helicopter flown in the Vietnam War. UE-823 flew combat missions for the 170th Helicopter Assault Company in Vietnam from 1968 to 1969. You can see the repaired bullet holes in the helicopter from its missions in Vietnam. It was humbling and an honor to hear the stories of the veterans who had flown in helicopters just like the one we were in. The story of the veteran who came to us and talked about being shot in the rice paddy, and had it not been for a Huey helicopter come to rescue him, he would have died there. These courageous men and women have faced death and suffered hardships while fighting to protect our freedom and safeguard our inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. There's an anonymous quote that I believe says it all. It reads, "Give thanks to those who defend democracy, for they bear the gift of liberty and they pay the price of freedom." As we honor these men and women today, I ask you to continue to pray for our brave men and women and their families who deserve our honor and admiration for the price they pay and the sacrifices they endure to keep us free. Thank you for allowing me to share with you today.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Hardy. I would like to introduce some friends of mine from the Ole Post of the American Legion. These gentlemen have been sponsoring an essay contest for our middle school students for several years. Originally, the sixth graders were the students who were asked to write essays, and a few years ago we switched gears, and now it is the eighth graders who are asked to write essays. And I'd like to introduce the gentlemen who are going to present the winners and the finalists for this year's essay contest. Mr. Carl Brown, Mr. Bill Lutz, and Mr. Robert Kissinger.
There's not a whole lot I can say after that last speaker. She hit home because I could have been riding in one of those helicopters in '69. So, on behalf of the Legion Post 878, Ole American Legion, we enjoy sponsoring this contest for the community. Just a little about the Legion in Ole. Probably our most important role is to sponsor our Memorial Day activities, which include a parade and a program. Before the parade, we go out and put flags on over 800 cemeteries, 800 graves in Ole and 30+ cemeteries, both public and private. In that situation, we recognize people that have fought in all the wars, including the American Revolution, and some possibly even before the American Revolution. The Legion has the opportunity to own 15 acres of green space behind Dunkin' Donuts. And we just opened the Mike Wenzel walking trail there for all in the community to use. We have monthly meetings with frequent speakers of interest. We sponsor Boy Scout Troop 569. We hold 2 chicken bakes to provide funds for our activities. We hold a blood drive for the Red Cross. We work with the Cub Scouts to provide a vaccination clinic for the people in Ole. And we have a homeless lunch program where we've made 72 lunches for vets that are homeless or not well taken care of for over 10 years. Bill Lutz is the chairman of that group. We have the opportunity to sponsor a float in the Berks County Armed Forces Parade on the second Saturday in May, the oldest parade in the United States for the Armed Forces. We also provide a scholarship, an Americanism scholarship for an Ole senior, a stand at the Ole Fair, a veterans tour to places like West Point, Naval Academy, Washington Memorial, Flight 93, and in April we're going to Gettysburg. We support the Ole Food Bank, and we support Christmas in the Valley and the Wreaths Across America. So these are a number of the things that our Legion does. Perhaps the thing that you're most interested in is our sponsorship of the Veterans Day contest, and we've done this for quite a few years now. This year, the title of the Veterans Day essay was, Is the American Dream Still Relevant Today? We asked for a 300 to 500 word essay. It must be original work. It's judged by 11 members of our Legion, and the top essays are read at least 3 times by Legion members. We're fortunate that we can provide cash awards to the top 3 individuals, and those awards are $150 for first place, $75 for second, and $50 for third. There's no correct answers to the questions that we ask. This year we reviewed 116 essays, many of them very good, some both pro and con. Each essay defined the American dream in a different way. What is the American dream? That was one of the things that came out very clearly in our essay contest. Several of you recognize that it was defined in 1931 in a book by James Adams. That was the American dream in 1931. But that dream has changed for every year and every individual since. How do you define it? That's what we were anxious to see. You defined it as setting personal goals, having a roof over your head, having a stable job, having a good family with a safe home, not being discriminated against, having a happy life, having an accomplished life, a reward for hard work, and yes, for 8th graders, they also define it as having early retirement. So they're thinking ahead. Some of you, unfortunately, or not unfortunately, some of you said the American dream is not attainable anymore. The American dream is a nightmare, or that inflation and taxes made the American dream impossible. I was particularly elevated by several that described how you, an 8th grader, are part of a 2nd or 3rd generation family of Americans. And now your parents or grandparents made the American dream work for you and for them. How do we attain this American dream? Many of you said you have to set goals, and I hope all of you will take note of this. You've got to set goals if you want to have the American dream. You got to work hard enough to achieve those goals. You've got to study hard, be good at what you do, develop a business or a profession. Don't expect the government to finance your dream. And remember that your actions have consequences. Make good life choices. These are all things that came out in your essays. Okay, I'm going to introduce the winners, and we'll start out with the honorable mentions. We'll ask you each to come up here and receive your award. In the honorable mention group, Jackson Buckner, come on up. Grace Cushman. Adeline Himmelreich, please stay up here. Leah Levlush. Addison Mast. Remy Rohrbach. And Madeline Young. These all were in the honorable mention category. Now I'd like to introduce the 3 winners. Jocelyn Goji, 3rd place with $50 award. Taylor Chrisman, 2nd place with a $75 award. And Reagan Andrews, 1st place with a $150 award. Do we have time to read all 3 of the essays? Okay, we're going to excuse, let's get a picture quick up here. And, oh, you did, okay. We're first place went to Reagan Andrews. Is she here? Second place to Taylor Christman. Okay, we're going to excuse the honorable mentions, but we're going to ask the first three places to stand up here and earn your paycheck by reading your essay. So we'll excuse all but the top three. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, Jocelyn, you get to start out.
American Dream essay. The American dream is defined as the idea that anyone can succeed in the United States regardless of their background or social status. Based on this definition, this means that you can be from Asia and come to the United States to be a baker or a teacher because you are free to be yourself as long as you follow the laws. This means a lot to me. My parents are not from the same place, but their backgrounds show European and Latina. My father immigrated to the United States so he could be free from the harsh government in Romania. Unlike him, my mother was born in New York. She may have been born here, but she is a complete Latina because of her parents. This means that I'm not only American, but I'm also half Latina and part European. As a young teenager, I would like to live in America, the American dream, because it means I could be a music teacher or an artist. Since my parents did not have the opportunity to do many things or big things to change the world, they want me to have that chance instead. My mother is always hard on me about work and schoolwork, not because she wants to overwhelm me, but because she cares about me and wants to see me succeed in all my goals and tasks. My father usually tries to get me to work too, and sometimes offers lessons on other things I need to know, like how to fix a tire or cooking and grilling. Some of these things that my parents teach me or help me with is something they had to learn by themselves or with little help from a parent or sibling, because their parents could not help or didn't know how. My mother and father do not want me to suffer and get lost without help or bit of guidance. As the question, is the American dream still relevant today, remains as such to all people around the world, I think the answer is yes. The American dream has had many different meanings over time, but it is often associated with homeownership and education, a path to success. This means I can get myself a home and no one can change it. It also means that if I wanted to become a firefighter, I could. If I wanted to be a mail carrier, I could. This goes for anyone in our world, not just Americans.
Okay, Jocelyn had a very good idea of what the American dream was for her and for her family. And I think that's very important. Our second place winner is Taylor Christman. There we go.
Is the American dream still relevant today?
Yes, I do strongly believe that the American dream is still relevant today. You might be wondering, what is the American dream? The American dream is the general idea of anyone in the United States able to achieve success regardless of their background, such as wealth, living conditions, any struggles, etc. To give a little background information of what the American dream is, it is known to have a good family, a roof to live under, and a stable job. It is often associated with the thought to lead to a better life by taking risks, sacrifice, and lots of hard work dealing with many different things. This term is believed to be popularized by James Truslow Adams in his book, The Epic of America in 1931. Now that you have a general idea of what the American dream is and how it is thought to be paths to success with different topics, I'll be talking about how I think it is still relevant today. If I compare my generation as a 13-year-old to my parents' generation, there could be some similarities and a few differences. Starting off with jobs, people could be more successful in this generation because there could be more opportunities and possibilities to get a job, and there could be more job options and also more higher-paying jobs. On the other hand, not compared to then, prices are higher, such as for cars, houses, gas, groceries, etc. Prices were lower back then, but in this new generation, things have gotten more advanced. Now people could be struggling more financially with all the upped prices. Bills are expensive for your household, car, and phone. People may not be able to afford groceries or any essential needs. There are pros and cons with the current generation compared to the previous generations. I still strongly believe that the American dream is still relevant today, even with the few downside events. I do think that it is good to have an advanced generation like ours. There could be easier ways to have a stable lifestyle with all the general needs currently. The general need of a stable lifestyle to me is owning a house to live in, some type of transportation, and a good paying job. The basic needs are clothes, food. Coming from the youngest from a family of 4 kids, I've watched my oldest sister graduate college, the second oldest graduates college this year, and the third oldest is in her last year of high school. Once I graduate high school or college, I can see how different or similar my experience is compared to my siblings. Is the American dream still relevant today? Well, here's why I think it is.
Thank you, Taylor. Again, very good concept of what the American dream is to her. Our first place winner, Reagan Andrews. Come on up, or over, I should say. And none of these students knew they were going to read these before they got up here.
Is the American dream still relevant today? The American dream: white picket fences, the perfect family, no worries, early retirement. This is what comes to mind for a majority of people when the American dream is mentioned. However, the American dream is not one idea. It is different for everyone. For some, the American dream might mean being successful and financially stable. For others, it might mean equality and freedom. The American dream began with the European settlers who came to North America for religious and political freedom, and later was popularized by James Truslow Adams during the Great Depression. The American dream did not always mean accumulating riches, as many believe today. In fact, Adams believed that the American dream was not purely the idea of gaining wealth and prosperity, but rather a dream of a society in which anyone could reach the greatest point of which they are capable. I believe that the American dream is still very relevant today. Many Americans currently believe the American dream is not attainable, or used to be but is no longer achievable. Pew Research Center conducted a survey earlier this year asking 8,709 U.S. adults for their view on the American dream. 41% of those adults said that the American dream was once attainable, and 6% believe it was never attainable. I agree that there are many obstacles facing Americans preventing them from obtaining their dream. Things like high prices and political division might act as hindrances, making it harder for people to accomplish their goal. Yet I also believe that if you are willing to work hard enough, you will be able to achieve your American dream. The United States presents so many opportunities for people to get where they want to be. There are a vast array of careers out there, meaning people can do whatever they love and make money for it. The U.S. also has a wide range of resources for people who need help. Whether you need a job or money to get an education, there is always somebody somewhere that can help you get the things you need in order to capture your American dream. These opportunities did not always exist, meaning the American dream was different for each generation. For the European settlers, the dream was religious freedom and a government in which they made and could be involved. For my parents, the American dream was being able to have a family and live in a safe place. For me, the American dream is to continue to have freedom and equal rights, to be able to have a family and a house and be able to pay for food and other necessities without worrying if my next paycheck will be enough, to be allowed to practice my religion freely, to feel safe in my own country. I imagine the American dream was never meant to be one singular idea, but was meant to be different for everyone, meant to change over the years, yet stay similar nonetheless. I feel the American dream is still very important in today's world. I believe everyone has an American dream, even if they don't realize it, even if they aren't an American. Everybody has an idea of their perfect reality, whether it be white picket fences or a place where everyone is treated equally. And that is why I feel that the American dream is still relevant today.
What a good group of essays we got on this topic. I'm just totally blown away and impressed by how many students put a lot of thought into this and the answers that they came up with. Is the American dream still relevant? On behalf of the American Legion here in Ole, we want to thank the middle school here for promoting the Veterans Day program. I think it's a very excellent program and one of the reasons why I'm proud to live in Ole. We want to thank our middle school, Mrs. Nagiri, and especially the superintendent, Dr. Scott Rohr, for putting this program together for us and allowing us to be a part of it. And I want to thank the 116 students that competed in this contest, because you definitely put a lot of work and effort into it. So thank you.
Mrs. Negrini, would you please come up here? Just wanted to give Mrs. Negrini just all the special thanks that she deserves. So much time and effort goes into this program, and we really appreciate it. So enjoy the rest of your Veterans Day, and thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you so, so much. Congratulations, 8th graders. I'm so proud of you for amazing essays and for the finalists and winners up here. I know you were very nervous, but you looked great and you sounded wonderful, so congratulations. There are so many special parts of this day, and I'm very happy to be involved in a small way in planning it. But the next part of our assembly, I think, is really the most important, is that is when we acknowledge each of our veterans individually. So I would like to call to the stage 4 Student Council members, Cassidy Bungars, Adela Menig, Natalie Hess, and Addison Hoffman. And then all of the Student Council members that will be handing out flowers, I invite you to come to the front of the stage so that we can begin to honor and recognize each of our veterans. Okay. I don't think you need that, Cassidy. I used it earlier and it kind of worked. Okay. Just make sure you pull this chair now and that you go really slow. Okay. Make sure you go really slow.
We are proud to celebrate the brave veterans who are here with us today. We will call each veteran by name and ask them to stand to be recognized. Please hold all of your applause until the final veteran's name has been called. Mel Fegley, Sergeant of the United States Army. Jonathan Fisher, EM3 of the United States Navy. Phil Orwig, Specialist, 4th Class of the United States Army. Jim Waits, Sergeant of the United States Army. John Wenzel, Sergeant E5 of the United States Army. William E. Weller, E4 of the United States Navy. William E. Wilcox, E5 of the United States Army. John Prang, Captain of the United States Air Force. Roger L. Moyer, Staff Sergeant of the United States Air Force. Kenneth Manwiller, Staff Sergeant, E6 of the United States Army. William Lutz, Sergeant, E5, United States Army. Michael P. Light, Corporal of the United States Marine Corps. Russell Beckner, Special Class 4 of the United States Army. Jessica Beckner, Private, 1st Class of the Army National Guard. Ronald P. Cooper, Private, 1st Class of the United States Army. And my dad, Kenneth Bungars, Senior Master Sergeant of the United States Air Force.
Carl Hildebrandt, E3, Private 1st Class of the Pennsylvania Army National Guard. Micah Kammerer, E5, 2nd Class Petty Officer of the United States Navy. David Shearer, Airman 1st Class, E4 of the United States Air Force. Tyler Sacamazone, Sergeant E5 of the United States Marine Corps. Edward Rich, Jr., E4 of the United States Army. James Paschel, MM2E2 of the United States Navy. Jennifer Parison, E4 of the United States Army. Carla Hummel, Captain of the United States Army. Kent Fretz, E5 of the United States Army. Jeff Longenecker, Staff Sergeant of the United States Army. Helen Deptula, Sergeant E5 of the United States Army. Jeffrey Weist, Specialist 5th Class of the United States Army. Robert Byers, Corporal of the United States Marine Corps. Tanner Acree, Corporal of the United States Marine Corps. David Wenzel, E8 Master Sergeant of the United States Army.
Jason Dean, Sergeant, United States Marine Corps. Stuart Snyder, Petty Officer, United States Navy. Edmund W. Bender, Master Sergeant, United States Army. Rachel Yote, Private First Class, United States Marine Corps. Bruce Cronrath, Specialist, 4th Class, United States Army. Heather Young, Sergeant E5, Pennsylvania Army National Guard. Roy Harding, Lieutenant, Junior Grade, United States Navy. Jeremy Larson, E7, United States Army. Jean Rettenauer, Specialist 4, United States Army. Eric Reichschneider, Corporal Tech Sergeant, United States Marine Corps, United States Air Force. Thomas H. Rudloff, E4, 3rd Class Petty Officer, United States Navy. Pretzel Specialist, 4th Class, Army National Guard. Paul Hammer, E4, Petty Officer, 3rd Class, United States Navy. Charles Reitnauer, Airman, United States Navy. Thomas L. Clark, United States Air Force. My dad, Zach Menig, 2nd Class Petty Officer, United States Navy.
Amanda Howard, E4, United States Air Force. Gerald Ott, BT3, E4, United States Navy. Jim Irwin, E4, Security Forces, United States Air Force. Robert Eli, Corporal, E4, United States Marine Corps. Marvin DeLong, Jr., Corporal, United States Marines Corps. Josh Corbin, Staff Sergeant, United States Air Force. Canonized Coral, E4, United States Marine Corps. Carl Brown, Sergeant, United States Army. Harry Kappenstein, E5, Damage Control, United States Navy. Robert Kissinger, First Sergeant, United States Army. Ron Jameson, Staff Sergeant, United States Army. Richard Groh, Sergeant, United States Air Force. Larry Seckler, Specialist 4th Class, United States Army. Christian Knoll, E4, United States Navy. Our Principal, Scott Rohrer, E5 Sergeant, United States Army. Please join us in a warm round of applause celebrating all our brave veterans today.
Again, great job today. Thank the students, staff, Ms. Negrini, Mr. Daniels for all your efforts today putting this all together. It was a long program, but I think a meaningful one. I appreciate again the students, how you handled today, showed respect, and we appreciate that. At this time, what I'll be dismissing, but before I go, I'd be remiss without saying just one last time, for our veterans, if we could have one last round of applause. And Ms. Negrini, mind we did have one last flower I'd like to give to Ms. Jill Hardy, our special guest today. Ms. Jill Hardy for Brandon. All right, thank you. This concludes our program. So what we're going to do is first we'd ask our veterans and everybody if you remain seated. We're going to dismiss our students first so they can get out of the way. And also I'd ask the veterans if you remain